After decades of printing more money than a geeked-up Alan Greenspan, the James Bond franchise is under more strain than Chris Christie's yoga pants. At one time, a veritable volcano of cash. Yet 2021's gimmicky, god-awful No Time to Die established an all-new precedent. A modern James Bond film that finally underperformed at the box office. Not horrendously so. It still made more money than a Gaza Undertaker, but after falling short of the apocalyptic $800 million box office that would have been required to recoup its astronomical marketing budget, the whole thing was sadder than watching Nick Fuentes throw a football. Enter Amazon! If we must.
The news has Hollywood shaken and stirred.
Perfect.
The martini-loving spy who has thrilled generations with 25 films of epic intrigue is getting a new creative custodian. Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson are passing the torch to Amazon MGM Studios, which says we are honored to continue this treasured heritage. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos quickly took to social media asking, who'd you pick as the next Bond?
I must be dreaming.
Folks, you had to see this one coming. Ray Charles, blindfolded, backward in a wind tunnel, was taking 2-on-1 bets on Bond being bought by Amazon. Why, you inquire? Allow me to rejoin your question with a question. When's the last time you saw a new Bond film within 2 years of its predecessor? After the 2-year wait between Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, we waited 4 years for Skyfall, 3 years for Spectre, and a stunning 6 years to watch Bond bawling at the sky and dying. Apparently they call themselves Eon Productions because that's how long they take to make a movie. James Bond has a Bethesda release schedule at this point and about the same level of quality control. Sure, it began as bitchin' with a killer Casino Royale, but by the end of his tenure I would have taken Sean Connery's toupee over the increasingly leathery Daniel Craig. Quantum of Solace was yellower than Biden's Depends, and the plot was harder to follow than RFK on Novocaine. And Daniel Craig not only handpicked the director of Quantum of Solace, thanks to the writer's strike at the time, he co-wrote the script as well, presumably in crayon. Indeed, whereas Roger Moore made chicken salad out of chicken shit, but could never once be blamed for being the actual chef, Daniel Craig is a rare case where you actually can blame a Bond actor for how awful some of his films are. As starting with Spectre, he not only enjoyed a producer credit, but he actually had it written into his contract that he would get to kill the character. Yes, children, that was his bright idea. Spectre sucked ass through a chain link fence, and No Time to DEI was clearly intended as a cavalcade of current year poon politics, with the lesbo black 00 whammon awkwardly edited out of the film at the 11th hour, the seams of which are still obviously visible in the final product. While a Billie Eilish Bond theme has to qualify as one of the biblical portents of the apocalypse. Between focus groups, ESG dictums, and more reshoots than the moon landing, I've seen better films on stovetop pudding. The Craig era is like a statue in a bird sanctuary. The more you come back to it, the shittier it gets. And in that sense, the Amazon acquisition has me shaken, but not stirred.
He said it! He said it!
In the minus column, there hasn't been a decent Amazon product since season 1 of The Man in the High Castle and the first 5 seasons of the otherwise bitchin' Bosch. I'd rather watch Lizzo's colonoscopy footage than Rings of Black Power. And no matter how many midwits insist it's watchable, no matter how many memesters insist otherwise, in both comic and filmic form, Invincible is distilled essence of overrated. Remember, kids, send all hate mail to YahtzeeCroshaw@talentlesshack.com. In the plus column, maybe now after half a damn decade, we can actually get our hands on that IO Interactive Bond video game. Listen up, asshat. One does not merely mention that a Bond game is in the works from the makers of the Hitman series, which for 8 entries has essentially been bald, James Bald, then vanish into an Afghan cave network so you can quietly die during dialysis. I mean, be killed by SEAL Team 6. Look, Andrew Tate will come out before Project 007, but with Amazon money men breathing down their buttholes, maybe now we'll actually get an announcement sometime this century. Sure, between the bald head and all-corrupting aura of untrammeled evil, Jeff Bezos is essentially a monocle and a moon laser away from being a Bond villain. But what really matters to you? More movies that increasingly suck, or finally playing another Bond video game as good as GoldenEye? Or here's a novel idea. crank out some comics already. You made us wait so long for Bond in comic form. Cross-gen one-upped your asses with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, bitch. How bad could this be? Put it this way, the only Amazon Bond production to date is Road to a Million, an aggressively retarded reality show that can be most charitably described as The Amazing Race, but shittier. And sure, Bezos assures us all he's done with DEI, ESG, and the rest of the alphabet soup of socialism, but after donating 7 figures to Kamala's Cringeathon in 2024, I'll scrawl that promise down in a great big book of Believe It When I See It. More likely, we'll see a Moneypenny, Young Q, or a Race Swap Fully Black Blofeld spinoff long before Bezos puts down the roid syringe long enough to give us a game. But make no mistake, Eon Productions, who even after this deal will remain non-creative co-owners of the franchise, were the ones to sink us into this mudslick to begin with. Making Casino Royale a prequel to cash in on WB making bank with Batman Begins made sense for the about 5 years when that was still in fashion, but the cringy continuity attempt backfired brutally with Quantum of Solace, and bringing back Judi Dench's M while recasting Bond always felt like a finger in the face of Pierce Brosnan and his millions of fans. Brosnan was built in a lab to play James Bond, and you dicks gave him Die Another Day. That man earned his cinematic swan song in Casino Royale, but instead, Barbara Broccoli saw Daniel Craig's salami in a Speedo, and the dew point at Pinewood Studios rose by no less than 17 damn degrees. Anyone else trying not to read too much into the fact that the Bond franchise found itself in this fiduciary quagmire because a broad named after a vegetable wanted to swallow Craig's meat? And make no mistake, Barbara Broccoli's lady boner for Craig is absolutely why Pierce Brosnan was shown the shithouse unceremoniously, despite having at least 2 more movies in him. Let not the talentless procession of interchangeable essayists autismo jerking on YouTube persuade you otherwise. Austin Powers parodies didn't do a damn thing to break the Bond formula, not least of which because the classic Connery and Roger Moore movies were up against every satirical spy competitor from Matt Helm to Man from U.N.C.L.E. and still made more money than a clean whore in Bangkok. Parodies didn't boof the Bond franchise. Die Another Day did, but even it was only one half of a bad Bond movie, namely the half with Halle Berry's no acting talent have an undeserved Oscar-winning ass festooned across it, which is more than I can say for 3 full fifths of the Daniel Craig era. I'd rather watch the first half of Die Another Day, wherein a bearded Brosnan kicks Korean commie ass, than Craig's Bond boo-hooing in the shower and shaving his legs. And it's by traveling this long and winding road to irrelevance that we wound up at this crossroads to begin with. From spectacular sequels to piss-poor prequels, from Nightfire to Fireman Calendar, and from action films to affirmative action films. Bond has bitten the big one, my friends, and his funeral will be at 2:15, 4:30, and 7:45. Though I concede there is something poetic about the greatest spy series in the world being owned by the same people who invented Alexa. I'm Fist, Razor Fist, and I will return in Poonraker. Godspeed!